Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing a review of Rites, which if you don't know is the sixth installment in the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. And as always, I'm sure you guys are familiar if you've seen my other videos on the Dresden Files, but I'll do, especially now that I'm so far into the series, I'm just going to do a very, very brief non-spoiler portion before I dive into a more in-depth spoiler review a little bit later into the video. And as always, I'll make it very apparent when that transition is happening. So, I touched on it a little bit in my update video, but I think this book is better than what I initially thought. I don't think I did right by it because I had burned myself out on Dresden, and this was kind of the moment I realized that was happening. I had read Death Mass and Summer Night like back to back in the space of 2, maybe 3 days, and then I went ahead and I picked up this one right after that, and I was just feeling a little worn out on the series as a whole. Nothing against it, but just overdid it a bit. Nothing more than that. I think once again it's a really solid book. Still B tier for me, but just if you're looking for something fun that you can pick up and just read and enjoy, it's got great action sequences. As always, Jim Butcher delivers on that in every book it seems. And once again, like Summer Night and Death Mass, Butcher is continuing to expand his universe and really go further in depth on not only the characters but the world as a whole. And I'm really enjoying, even though I was burnt out, I'm still really enjoying learning more and more about the world that Jim Butcher has really built here. So, still recommend reading it, especially if you've already read the first 5 installments. This one doesn't disappoint. The series doesn't appear to be taking any turns for the worse. It's just continuing to go up from here, it appears. So, and like I said, everyone knows that kind of huge milestone is changes where the series goes from here to off the charts. So we're halfway at this point, so hang in there. Not even hang in there, enjoy the ride is a better phrase, because I definitely have been enjoying my read through. To be fair, I know everyone says Changes is this incredible book, but I don't think many people would even get to a 12th book in a series, even knowing it's that great, if the first 11 weren't good. So that's just a big ask. A series can't put a series in such high acclaim and then be like, well, you have to get to the 12th book first. That's not the case with the Dresden Files. So I just want to make sure you don't have any of those misconceptions. It's still very good until you get to that point, and I'm excited to get there. I haven't yet, though, so far. So those are my non-spoiler thoughts. So if you haven't read the book already, thank you for joining. Make sure to like and subscribe and comment below, letting me know kind of your thoughts on the series as a whole, and if you're excited to keep reading or you're just kind of burnt out on it. So those are my non-spoiler thoughts. Now digging into the spoilers. Like I said, I just think it was mainly just burnout on this one. I think the Summer Night and Death Mass, sorry, I'm having trouble keeping track of them in my head, but I think Summer Night and Death Mass, they do a lot of the same things Rite does, and that may be why I didn't enjoy this book as thoroughly, is just because I don't know if I want to use redundant, I think that's too strong of a word, but a little bit repetitive. They're relatively predictable so far, which nothing against that. That's fine, but I think just by reading them back to back to back in the space of a few days, I think you're better served taking more time in between these books, even though they are quicker reads, just so you don't get burnt out on it and it doesn't become too repetitive. But anyways, Rite does a lot of the same things that Summer Night and Death Mass does. It continues to expand the world. I just like the premises in those two books a little bit better at their core. I loved kind of the politics with the Fae and discovering new things about the Fae world and the city. And then in Death Mass, I was a huge fan of kind of the Daenerys, and I talked about it at length in my review, the premise behind kind of the fallen angels, or the fallen as they call them, based on the 30 pieces of silver that Judas got for giving up Jesus. And the premise I just didn't connect with as much in this book. It was more about, kind of the as you guys know if you've read it, the politics and the vampire courts, and I do like that, but it just not as enjoyable as the other two premises. But some of the things that I did still really, really love is just the connection between Thomas and Harry, and we've kind of been, it's been being alluded to, what are Thomas's motives behind the scene. It's been being alluded to for a few books now, because it seems that, for a vampire, he goes out of his way almost to help Harry and have a decent relationship, it would appear. And Harry Dresden obviously is always very suspicious and very hardened towards that. But in this book, we finally find out why that is the case. And I love in this book that we are getting more of Dresden's backstory and learning more about his life prior to when we picked up Stormfront. So that was very, very good in my opinion. And we learn Thomas has this affinity towards Harry Dresden and is kind of his behind-the-scenes guardian angel, because they are stepbrothers. They share a mother, and we have known very little about Dresden's mother other than he carries her pendant, and seems obviously has kind of this hole where his mother should be. He has very few memories of her. I think she died when he was 6, I think it said, no, she died in childbirth. That's right. His father died very early on in his life. So he knows pretty much nothing about her. Obviously, he can't remember her because she died in childbirth. So it was very, I love the scene where Thomas finally reveals that they're brothers, and they do a soul gaze, and Harry's mother kind of has imprinted on both their minds kind of a message from her in her likeness and everything. And you get this very, very cool scene that even though she's been dead for, I don't even know how old Dresden is, but I guess 30, 40 years she's been dead, but you still get this almost you do get a conversation between mother and son, and it's a really touching scene, and it's just really interesting to get to learn not only that Thomas is his, their stepbrother, and that's why Thomas has kind of been watching out for him, and Dresden's always been a little bit skeptical as to what his motives were. We find that out, and then in the soul gaze, we also see that Thomas has been really fighting against his hunger as a vampire, and doesn't necessarily want to be this creature, but this creature of hunger and of evil. But it's just such a burden, and it's made very apparent, and this great depiction of kind of we get during the soul gaze, Thomas seeing himself in a mirror, and this awful creature that is his hunger kind of on his back, and almost like a parasite controlling his thoughts and everything. So really love that scene, and that was really the main takeaway for me from this book, is just learning more about Dresden's backstory and learning more about his mother, and getting this nice development that Thomas is his brother. And then we also get Wrath, who is the head of the White Council, Thomas's father, kind of falling by Dresden's hand. We find out Harry's mother had kind of crippled him with his death curse, making him unable to feed. And then Lara, Wrath's daughter and Thomas's sister, takes advantage of that situation and kind of gets his revenge for being a horrific father, as you would suspect. And that's where we're left off. And like I said, the further away I get from this book, the more time that passes, I am appreciating it more. I think if I did this review, the day I finished it, it would have been pretty negative, but I kind of recognized that was mostly just from burnout. I need to take a step back from Dresden, and just take a week or two away from it, so I can not let that affect kind of my perception of the series, and make it as enjoyable as possible, the series, because I am loving pretty much everything about it so far. I'm still waiting for it to get, you know, it's not the most like intricate or in-depth thing you're ever going to read, which is fine just because it's so enjoyable and quick. But I am hoping that it, you know, takes a turn towards more of that, and this kind of this book definitely builds on that, and it's definitely continues to head in that direction. So as always, what I'm really looking for Dresden and any you know books that are in such a long series is like, does the book want to make me keep reading? And even though I was burnt out on Dresden, I will say this: I had the urge a day or two after finishing this book to pick up the next installment. So I think that's pretty telling that it is definitely definitely a good series, and definitely, you know, a good book overall. So anyways, that's where I'll end it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Obviously, like and subscribe if you haven't already. And let me know your thoughts on Dresden down below.